Hey guys, Zomfox here, and today it is time to look at the Week 2 2024 NFL preseason and how the UFL quarterbacks did this time. Now, last week I talked about Adrian Martinez and Luis Perez, and this time we have a third to joining that party. Now, before I get into that, if you're here just to see what the overall reaction, how well they played for just one of these quarterbacks are, I'll have timestamps in the description. The order is going to be Perez, Martinez, and Corral. Again, if you want to see just one of those QBs being described and all that, just go down there and I'll tell you all about what they did, how well they played, and all that. Before that, again, we got to quickly talk about the fact that Corral did recently get signed this week. We did see some big changes in the Chargers QB depth chart, it seems. And overall, this week was not as good in some ways as last week, but in some ways it was better. It's weird. So let's get started with the one that actually did benefit, and that was Luis Perez. Now, Perez is a weird one. As you'll notice, the first thing to note on these stats that I'm going to show before showing some highlights is the fact that Max Duggan is nowhere to be found. Max Duggan did not play. That's a big deal, as it means that in theory, it looks like Perez did beat Max Duggan, or at least, as for the week, beat Max Duggan for the QB3 job. Now, we'll have to see if that sticks in the Week 3 NFL preseason, but as of now, it looks like Perez may have gotten that QB3 job. Now, in terms of overall highlights, as soon as he was in the game, he threw a pass to Quentin Johnson, who caught the ball. I know, that's a huge shock hearing Quentin Johnson catch the pass. It was a great play-action pass, but really that was the big highlight of the game for Perez. While he ended up finishing with like 13 completions, he had a couple other plays that were okay, but the one that was really bad was the fact that he did fumble and lose the ball, meaning that he did have a turnover. And so it wasn't great. Again, it's a shame to see that Perez didn't put up the most insane game or have the most insane highlight reel tape considering what he was doing. But in terms of what he did overall in the game itself, though, and stat-wise, he really wasn't terrible. I mean, 13 of 20 for 78 yards is pretty pitiful in the yardage aspect. As I've talked about, you always want to see 10 yards per completion, right? 10 yards per attempt is you had an incredible game, but 10 yards per completion is doable. He did not do that. Now, he did fumble and lose the ball, but Stick also fumbled and lost the ball, but also threw an interception. Now, Perez did have a couple drop passes and all, but the Chargers did lose the game, and his team, or as Perez on the field, he only put up 3 points, and that was one field goal. The fact is, Perez once again had a very good opportunity to legitimately usurp the QB2 job. Stick did not play all that well. Again, 8 of 13 for 85 yards is better on a pure statistic than 13 of 20 for 78. But Stick did throw an interception, he did fumble, and people hated watching him play. But he did get 5 rushes for 22 yards. Again, it was an opportunity again for Perez to make a claim for himself. Now, again, you have to note that this is with just a couple weeks of being with the team, and that's a big deal, and that might be a huge reason why he got this opportunity over Max Duggan. And that's the big thing to note. Is Max Duggan legitimately basically done? Is he the QB4, meaning he's probably going to get cut, or be the practice squad pending what they do in the roster, blah, 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 blah. The point is, did Perez fully beat out Max Duggan? If so, he's guaranteed to be on this roster, whether it be as that, emergency QB3 or as an actual QB3, pending how they do it. We don't know. But if he did beat Max Duggan, that's huge. But we don't know for sure, because it is very much possible that it swaps back in next week. But we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But overall, Perez definitely kind of dropped the ball on this one. This was a golden opportunity, and he didn't play nearly good enough to solidify that QB3 job and threaten the QB2 job. I'd say at this point, he's probably going to finish as QB3 for the Chargers, which is still really solid. It's still him being in the NFL. Not a ton. Adrian Martinez, man, this is disappointing. I did watch this game on the live stream that I did this past weekend. And look, his stats and highlight reel, mainly his highlight reel, yes, he had another highlight throw. Let's just talk about that one first. He had another play where he was, getting pressured. This time he had his face mask, fully taken around him. Yet he was able to put it back, show the ref, hey, face mask, got the flag, still scrambled, threw a pass to the right out of bounds area. And it was a perfect throw. His receiver caught it for a big gain. Again, it was another highlight of the night type of play. Just like against the Commanders, he had one super highlight play. But aside from that, he had a terrible interception, an awful interception where he was way too high above his receiver. That's about like 5 yards too deep, and was a terrible interception. And aside from that, it's not like he had really any more highlight plays. His overall stats were pretty terrible. 7 of 17 for 67 yards and an interception. Google doesn't show the passer rating. I just showed the basic stats like I did last week. His passer rating was abysmal. We're talking about like god-awful. I believe it was 28.3. It might be a little bit off, but it was about 28.3 passer rating. That's horrific. That's what he had. 4 yards rushing, for him is terrible. And yes, his offense put up 9 total points, but a lot of that was benefited from great returns by the team's special teams. They had that massive kickoff return. They had a couple other ones. Overall, even though, yes, he put up 9 points, yes, he won his team the game again, this was not like last week where it was very much, hey, he was a huge reason they won. This time it was more so he was just kind of there when they got the W. And again, Peasley did not play bad. Peasley, 7 completion for 33 yards is horrific. That is terrible yards per completion. But watching Peasley, it wasn't like he was terrible. He wasn't all that good, but neither was Martinez. Martinez had the highlight play. Martinez had the benefit of his special teams and running backs playing really well. So while watching it live, I want to say it was very disappointing. Again, he still played good with that great pass, but if you eliminate that, it's not insane. Now, granted, he did have some dropped passes in the end zone. There was one that got tipped, and it should have been a caught ball in the end. Wasn't. There was a throw to the front corner of the end zone. Should have been caught. Wasn't. So, yes, were there dropped TDs? 100%, and that hurts Martinez. But even with it, does that and the highlight play negate that god-awful INT? I don't think so. I think that overall Martinez is still not playing good enough. He needed to have a good enough performance to legitimately take that QB3 spot for that final preseason game to actually get some game action against legit second/first stringer, since it seems the Jets are not going to play their first or second stringer, and of course Travis is still hurt. So again, this is the QB battle where it's basically for a part-time QB3 position until Travis gets healthy, and it looks like Martinez probably won't win it. Now, he still could. Again, his highlight plays show that he still has that NFL capability. His ability to run and scramble is huge. If he is on passing, which we've seen before, look at his games against the Memphis Showboats this past year in the UFL, he can be a deadly passer. But this was not one of those games. He had a highlight play, a couple drop passes, but overall wasn't insane. So because of that, I'd say that his odds of beating Peasley probably went down from like a 40% to probably like a 30-25%. Still could happen, because if you look at Peasley and say, he is what he is, he's not that great, whereas Martinez could be great on small doses, you might keep him over him. We'll see. That's Martinez. And then lastly is Matt Corral. This one was sad. This was really sad. So Corral came in at the very end of the game, and let's just roll the clip. His one drop back in the game, he immediately got pressured, sacked, fumbled, ball went out for a safety. Yes, you can blame the play call, which is doable, but at the end of the day, it was still a terrible play on Corral. You can blame whatever you want, but if your one drop back in a game is for a sack, fumble, safety, that is horrific. And his rush yards technically finalized to 2 carries for -3 yards. That's bad. And remember, he was only signed here because JJ got hurt. He is basically a preseason body, all things considered. Darnold is the starter, Mullins is the backup, and Jaron Hall is probably going to be the third stringer. The idea that Corral's going to beat him is just pretty wild. Again, you never know. You might want to have a guy know the playbook and all that, because if somebody gets hurt, you can call him up to be that emergency QB3, which very well could be the point of this. Remember, this is a former third-round pick in the NFL just a couple years ago. But in terms of what he did that game, terrible. The Browns put up 2 points in the fourth quarter, and they were on that fumble. So not great. So yes, Corral easily put up the worst performance of the 3. He played the least, yet made the worst impact and impression overall. But in terms of performances, I'd probably say that Perez was overall the best performer, simply put because he didn't have a horrible play. Yes, his fumble was bad, but it wasn't as bad as the INT or Corral's fumble. While Martinez definitely had the highlight of the 3 and one of, again, the highlights of the entire weekend, I think that overall his performance was a bit lackluster, especially against a Panthers team that he should have done really good against. But that'll do it. So this has been Zom-Fox. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. We are basically like around 850 at the time of recording. We might have actually hit it while I'm recording this, which is huge. Again, I'm going to do this again next week if, these guys all get some playing time next week. So we'll see if they end up making rosters and all that. I am trying to upload at least 2 videos a week overall. NFL stuff, UFL stuff, OG USFL stuff, a bunch of good stuff, so be on the lookout for all that. Again, if you want to support the channel, think about becoming a community member for as low as 99 cents a month or $2.99 a month. You get an exclusive monthly video. You'll get exclusive team emojis and a few other perks and all that. And as always, guys, have a great night.